Alright, in this last video, let's see how the theories presented are applied in one of the current course books. I have with me here a global English book. Take a look at this map as an example of multi-component syllabus approach. It can be seen it is a merging of two broad approaches. One is concerned with the view of language in use and includes categories of function, context, and language skill. In Unit 1, they deal with problems on the phone, write an informal letter, and guess the meaning of new words. The other is a version of a more formal linguistic syllabus, which comprises elements of grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary. In Unit 1, we have used different question types, used present perfect tenses, verbs and prepositions, and auxiliary verbs. In the book, pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar can both be practiced in the context of use. For example, in Section 1.2, perfect tenses are presented in reading text and practiced in a writing task, or be rehearsed in isolation, such as the pronunciation of auxiliary verbs have and been in Section 1.2. The book has 10 units and there is no consolidation during the course. The activities are for the practice of all the 4 English skills which are integrated in each section. Moreover, the topics chosen can be considered universal, so hopefully they can promote the engagement of learners, especially when they can make some local references. Now we look at Unit 1 of this book. Clearly, it is divided into 5 parts and a review at the end. With each part from 1.1 to 1.4, the goals are set and stated right at the beginning, which can be communicative, like talk about conversation in different cultures in Section 1.1, or grammatical, like use different question types in Section 1.1. Part 1.5 provides learners with an opportunity to learn more about the world and have a deeper insight into the topic. As you can see, the book uses several colors and a lot of photos to illustrate the content, which helps make the material more attractive. However, there's not much white space, resulting in a quiet strain when looking at the pages. Obviously, this book will be more suitable for adult learners than the young ones. The text can be quite authentic and varied, including many text types from academic to review in Section 1.2 and journal article in Section 1.3, which makes more use of informal language. This helps avoid the banality and ensure the variety of contexts in which the language is used. We don't see the sources of the text, however, it is likely that they are taken from different sources. The assumed level of learners is upper intermediate, therefore, the text can be expected to be comprehensible. Nevertheless, some scaffolding may be necessary if the book is applied in the mixed level class, where there are quite long and complex structures and difficult words, for example in Section 1.2 as you can see on the slide. Talking about the task, if we consider the main task as the ones given at the end of each part, Part 1, Part 2, Part 4 with 2 tasks, and Part 5, then it can be said that the book seems to apply task-based approach. Learners get introduced to the topic, work on the language forms, and perform the task. The last phase, however, seems to be put before the task cycle, meaning learners focus on the vocabulary and grammar before performing the task itself. This can be seen as a focus on the accuracy of the outcomes and even a force into premature production. So we should not expect learners to be successful right after the first time following the framework. Therefore, maybe another cycle will be needed. The good point is that these tasks target a communicative purposes, which stimulates learner interaction with the input, and they will need to refer back to the text again and again instead of study it only once. Moreover, the tests range from quite simple, such as gap fill, ask and answer questions, to more complex and problematic, like write a letter, but still can be achievable with the help of the sample productions and language patterns. They also include individual, pair, and group works, catering for different learning styles. Okay, now let's examine the activities designed in the book. As you can see, they ensure the investment of learners by pushing them to make discoveries for themselves, like in section 1.2 with present perfect tense, and achieve short-term test objectives, such as write a letter using this tense. After finding out what language features function, learners can check their generalization with the information box. However, sometimes, with the information box right on the next page in section 1.2, learners can become lazy and inactive because they can find help immediately instead of trying to discover the function themselves. One more significant point is that there are a lot of discussions and activities to give learners chances to express personally and investigate the topics. Unfortunately, there's not many chances for learners to communicate with the text after receiving them only in section 1.2. Instead, learners try to understand the text and accept them inactively. What's more, the topic of Unit 1 may be universal. However, whether it relates to the world of learners or not is still questionable. For example, they may not have the same problems in their conversations because the opportunities of using English can be limited, or they may not have any experiences with handwriting letters. Moreover, many skills and forms to be practiced in one unit will require the teachers to scaffold the learners a lot in real teaching. It's because learners may not be ready for many features at the same time. Instead, they need more meaningful practice to understand and use only one feature before they can move on to the next one. Learners are not also given choices of topic and focus of activities or involved in mini projects to find supplementary materials or make decisions about which texts to use and how to use them, which can reduce their effective attitude in learning process. There are also no suggestions for giving feedback. Hence, teachers need to have initiative and be flexible based on the goals of each teaching step. Alright, now look at the instructions of each step of the book. What can you learn about the author through these instructions? As can be seen, the language used in the instructions is quite formal and reveals very little about the personality, interests, and experiences of the writer. This can be considered as an example of devoiced and anonymous materials with which learners often find it difficult to communicate or quite boring. As for the organization and coverage of the book, it puts an emphasis on vocabulary when it applies the corpus, which is Oxford 3000, to ensure that learners are only covering the most relevant and useful words. It also tries to activate the transferable skills, such as guessing the meaning of new words in context for learners. In conclusion, it can be said that this book is designed based on communicative concept. Its focuses are to enhance learners' skills of using the language in context and get them to perform the tasks which are quite pedagogical. It also emphasizes the correctness of language form by providing activities to practice vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. It's more suitable for adult learners than the young ones according to the lack of white space. It pays attention to learner styles by a range of different types of activities, tasks, and texts, and it scaffolds learners through the increasing challenges put in a series of tasks which can help build their confidence. It also shows the effort to engage learner cognitively into the topic. However, it may not be entirely suitable for a group of learners with different needs, affective attitudes, levels, and cultural backgrounds. The examples of language used in context and the practices may be insufficient to get learners ready for the full acquisition and effective use of the language. In addition, it fails to give learners and teachers suggestions for self-checks and outcome feedback. As a result, the teachers need to figure out the variables of their target learners and adapt the book to some extent to cater for different needs, interests, affective attitudes, level, and cultures. The absence of consolidation during the course can also be a weakness because teachers will have to spend more time designing the activities for this. Above are some features of the book in the view of the theories established by Tomlinson and McDonough et al. It is important that whenever you want to select and maybe adapt a book for your teaching, you take a careful look into its syllabus and activities, as well as the approach it applies to understand how it can help you with your teaching or what changes you may need to make in your class. Now I would like you to do the same with another book. Look at its syllabus in Unit 1. Follow the same steps I've done above to see what are the strong points and weak points of this book. Consider its type of syllabus, its approach stated in the syllabus, its page design, its activities, its text, both sources and types, its goals, and its concern of vocabulary, or even the view of English as an international language. When you have finished, I'd like you to look back at the coursebook you chose at the beginning of the lesson. Choose one specific unit and one teaching situation in which you apply this book. First, you need to describe the teaching situation in details. You then look at the activities in the unit and analyze these activities based on the theories discussed in the previous video. Then decide whether these activities are feasible or not in that teaching situation and whether the activities reflect and follow the approach stated or described in the syllabus of the book. Lastly, you are expected to take notes of your analysis and record yourself, and then share the recording with other teachers. Before we say goodbye, let me review the main points of the module for you. There are two main parts: principles of materials development and approaches to materials. In the first part, you should always remember that there are a lot of learners' variables which affect the design of materials and activities in teaching. To benefit this process, try to know as much as possible about the target learners and take into account all of their differences in your materials. Moreover, in the effort to expose learners to the authenticity, bear in your mind that not only the text, the task, or the topics should be real, but the authors should be real as well. Furthermore, this authenticity needs to make sense with learners themselves, which they find familiar and can refer to their own cultures and contexts. Another important point is that affection plays an important role in the learning process. As a result, the materials should be attractive, the text should be interesting, the tasks should be stimulating and achievable, and learners should be given choices and space to respond emotionally and personally to the text. Equally important, learners need to be active in their own learning. To be more specific, they need to think during the process. To achieve this, materials need to give them the chances to be creative and to build their confidence as well as to be involved in real communicative tasks. Lastly, feedback should focus on the effectiveness of the target purpose to see whether learners are successful in the communication or not, rather than just concentrate on the language form. In the second part, it is necessary to notice that most syllabuses nowadays are multi-layered, which are the combination of 2 or more types in the 6 types mentioned. What's more, the influences and implications of CLT should be fully and thoroughly understood to avoid the misconceptions of this approach. That is, it takes into account both accuracy and fluency and involves all 4 language skills: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. Moreover, it focuses on the real-world use of the language, considering the context, topic, and roles of the people involved. Next, task-based learning appreciates both the language form and language use, although it is goal-oriented. Last, English should be considered as an international language, and a variety of its forms should be accepted and promoted in materials design. That means a wider range of language resources can be made use of in the development of the materials. To sum up, I have introduced to you some principles and approaches behind current materials development and how these principles can be applied in real teaching situations. In the next modules, you will learn how to evaluate and adapt your materials. Therefore, understanding the theories is a prerequisite before you decide to make any changes and use them for each group of target learners in a specific teaching setting. I hope that this module has helped you to prepare some of the knowledge to get ready for and to be more successful in the next steps. Thank you very much and goodbye. To sum up, I've introduced to you some principles and approaches behind current materials development and how these principles can be applied in real teaching situations. In the next modules, you will learn how to evaluate and adapt your materials. Therefore, understanding the theories is a prerequisite before you decide to make any changes and use them for each group of target learners in a specific teaching setting. I hope that this module has helped you prepare some of the knowledge to get ready for and to be more successful in the next steps. Thank you very much and goodbye.